This episode of the Restoration Today podcast is brought to you by First Onsite. It seems like every business is looking to hire right now, but what are you looking for? First Onsite is searching for new team members that want to help others while building an authentically fulfilling career for themselves. Interested? Learn more at firstonsite.com/careers and find out how you can make a difference. First Onsite, together, we rise. Hey Restorers, thanks for checking out another episode of the Restoration Today podcast. Today I'm very excited to be joined by somebody that I've been chatting with over email for a few months, and I finally get to quote unquote meet him in person. Not really, because we're on Zoom, but I finally get to meet Elon, who does repairs, equipment repairs in the industry. And he is kind of a wealth of knowledge on what it takes to repair equipment and the difference between, can you repair it in-house? Do you have to send it back to the manufacturer? Differences between brands, which we won't get a whole lot into, but I am very excited to have him join me for this discussion. So Elon, thank you very much for joining me. Can you share a little bit about yourself and kind of your background? Like, how long have you been doing equipment repair in the industry?
Hi, Michelle. Thank you for having me. About 3 years I'm doing this, I want to say.
Okay. Or have you always been in restoration? Like, how did you get into doing equipment repair?
I had, when I just moved to the States with my wife, we had a business together for 14 years in retail.
Okay.
We used to sell in kiosks in the shopping mall. Mm-hmm. But retail died, and I had to look for something new to do.
Okay.
So it was like right at my midlife crisis. So that's how I got into restoration.
Okay. So were you, like your company says, were you literally born to repair things? Have you always kind of been like a tinkerer and take things apart and understand how they work?
I really like to repair, but I thought it was a good business name.
It is a good business name. I mean,
so that's why I chose it.
You hear stories of some children who were like literally born taking apart things and trying to figure out the inner workings and then putting them back together. So I wasn't sure if maybe that was where it came from. Well, how did you learn to repair equipment? If it's just like the last 3 years, you had to have had some kind of background or experience, or you just figured it out.
As a child, I used to be an electrician's assistant.
There you go.
And I learned almost everything that I needed to learn about electricity. Since then, I really like to repair stuff.
Okay.
And it always used to be my hobby. Now it's not so much of a hobby anymore.
I was just noticing all of your stuff in the background. I didn't notice John's books, and there's like a CNR logo there. I didn't notice all that until I like it. Nice little
John's thing.
Yep.
There's the experience over here that you probably can't see.
Yep.
And this is my award for my socks.
Yep.
More like my shoes, because I didn't collect a lot of socks, but I did collect a lot of shoes.
Hey, you can wear them on your feet. It works out. So how did you get into restoration? I mean, do you do repairs outside of restoration, or mainly it is just niche in restoration?
I actually started with appliances.
Okay.
And it's a long story, but I found myself in a restoration company trying to kill some time. And the owner in the interview noticed that I repair appliances. He took me to the warehouse and asked me if I can do something about his broken pile. So that's how I taught myself how to specifically repair restoration equipment.
Okay. Where are you? You're located on the West Coast, right? Like, are you mainly working with companies that are local to there, or do you work with companies nationwide?
I live in San Diego, and I service the San Diego area and the surrounding. Okay. So, for example, yesterday I was in South Los Angeles, and I also teach how to repair. So that I do all over. Some companies, they fly me over, and then I teach them how to repair in their own warehouse. Okay. Or just over like a Zoom or FaceTime.
Okay. So what is the value that you're finding owners are seeing with repairing their equipment versus completely replacing it, or the money savings between like repairing it in-house versus paying for shipping it back, then it's out and you don't get to use it for a while. You might need that for a job. Like, what's the value of getting it repaired in-house? I might have just answered part of your question, but sorry about that. But
so the value is usually unexpected. Like for example, when sending equipment to the traditional repair shops that I don't want to mention because I don't want them to kill me when I'm sleeping.
good.
So
Good
so
goal.
it's very frustrating a lot of times to deal with. I don't know how it is in other places, but people who I talk to, they find themselves sometimes waiting for several months until they get the equipment back. And sometimes it takes like a month until they just get an estimate for the repairs. Then the estimate is full of stuff that you don't really need, like replacing stuff that are not really broken, and all that adds to the cost. But the saving is not necessarily the cost. When you have 10 pieces of equipment that are not with you, then you can't really take another job.
Yep.
And that's where the real cost is. So the value of being able to repair yourself, or having somebody like me that comes to your warehouse to repair for you when you just call, is not necessarily the amount that you save on the repairs themselves, even though it's at least half, if not even more. The value is mostly that you have the equipment with you, and it's not just somewhere in somebody's warehouse collecting dust.
And it sounds like you've actually worked with some of the manufacturers to really get to know their products and their machines, right? So you are actually skilled in repairing like specific brands. You actually know how they work and can repair them by working directly with that manufacturer as well, right?
So one thing that is funny that happened to me is that B Air was bought by Lasco, and the people doing their warranty services left the company for an unknown reason, let's say. And
let's say, okay.
So Lasco hired me. They flew me to Texas, and I taught the warranty company, the warranty department, how to repair their own equipment, because nobody there knew how to do that. So there was a time where there was no service at all. They would just send you new equipment. But now they know how to repair their own equipment. They also send me like samples of new equipment. So you can't really see that with my setup, but all around me I have like prototypes and stuff that people send me. And I just tell them what's my opinion about it. So Lasco, for example, I just received one compact DHU that they're planning to put out to the market, and they didn't yet. And they're waiting for me to tell them what is my opinion about it.
Are there certain types of equipment that you shouldn't try to repair in-house or have somebody come fix? Like, there's air movers and DQs, and then there's hydroxyls and ozone and just a whole bunch of different technology that restorers use, right? So is there anything that you shouldn't try to repair on your own that should go back to the manufacturer, or is it all kind of, you can do it?
Well, everything can kill you, basically.
Good answer.
Yes, and if you look at so before we just spoke about the article that I sent you for your magazine. Yep. And if you look at the last picture that I sent you, you can see that I'm actually working inside, in a puddle of water. So when repairing equipment, like for example, dehumidifiers, if you want to look for a leak, you have to, to create a leak, or at least to force feed the water into it to see where it's leaking from. And the whole thing, of course, is, working with electricity. So, you have to be kind of dumb to do it, to be honest, or crazy.
We'll go
I've
with
been
crazy.
accused of both.
I mean, are you a daredevil at heart? Like, are you the type of person that would go bungee jumping and skydiving and like, I'll do all the things, cliff jumping?
Heights is not for me.
Oh, okay. Well, standing in water with electricity around is then. So you found it.
Look, it's a risk that I'm willing to take, and you drive in your car and you take a risk on the way to work, and we're all willing to take it. So I know that I take the precautions that are necessary. When I teach people how to repair, I teach them how to take precautions. I teach them what not to do, but basically, there's always risks in any business, unless you're just sitting down next to a computer. But there's even risks in that.
There is even risk just from sitting here. If you sit here for too long, then you could cause health problems just from sitting for too long. Do you find that
something I would not do? Or I cannot do that. Yes.
I feel that. Do you find that there's maintenance that contractors are failing to do that's leading to some of the repairs that need to happen? Is that like what triggers a lot of it, or like?
Yes. So everybody is just ignorant. Everybody, and it's not their fault. Some of it is it's because of the IICRC that are just giving wrong advice.
Okay.
And most people are just not interested, to be honest, in knowing anything about their equipment. They see it as a tool to make money. Mm-hmm. So here's a tool, throw it into somewhere, then collect the paycheck, and nobody cares about the rest.
Yep.
And I get it. It's a business. Business is business. And so I get it. But you can extend, if you do care about the lifespan of your equipment, if you do care about the performance of your equipment, there are ways to to make sure that everything is working correctly and that the lifespan is extended.
Do you have any advice or recommendations for companies that like maybe are lacking in keeping up with their equipment? Like a specific tip, like, hey, you should be doing X every time your equipment comes back into the shop.
There's three things I tell everybody, and I also mentioned it in the previous article I wrote for you. First thing is keep your equipment out of the containment or the room where demo is happening. So if you have a demo, take the equipment out, let the dust settle, then reintroduce the equipment when the dust settled. This is so simple, especially with machines that are sucking dust inside.
Yeah.
Everybody would know to do that.
Yeah.
The next thing is when loading the garbage bags into the truck, don't load full garbage bags that are not even tied and they're full with like dust and nails and screws. Don't load them right on top of the equipment, because that trickles down into the equipment. And
people would even do that. Sorry. I'm surprised people would even do that. That seems like takes 2 seconds to tie the bag, right?
Everybody does this. This is like the thing that everybody does. It's like you do the demo, then you put everything on the equipment.
Okay. Any tips for while they're cleaning the equipment? Like ideally, after some jobs, you need to go back and clean your equipment before you're taking them to a new job site to avoid cross-contamination. So do you have any tips for companies for that cleaning process to make sure they're not damaging the equipment?
Yeah, before there's the third thing, which is using filters that fit and that are clean. Okay. So when cleaning equipment, one thing that the people learn from the IICRC is that when cleaning a DHU, you should use air compressor. And that's just wrong, because that just pushes the dirt right into the DHU and reduces performance, and also eventually clogs the pumps. So instead, just do the opposite. Use a vacuum cleaner that pulls out the dirt.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So this is the best piece of advice that I can give to anybody who just wants a clean equipment.
Use a vacuum. Okay.
And the toothbrush, very important.
Does it matter if it's a soft bristle or a medium bristle or a hard bristle?
It depends on your gums.
It does depend on your gums. Depends on your dentist, depends on the time of life. Yeah.
Because I just use the one that I just finished using. Then I just use the toothbrush instead of throwing it to the garbage.
Great. I'm gonna take, that's gross, and I know that you didn't, so I'm gonna take it as you didn't, because gross.
But seriously, the toothbrush has bristles that are hard enough to clean the dust and the pieces of dirt, but are soft enough to not bend the fins of the coils. And that's why I recommend the toothbrush.
Okay. All right. So you just wrote another article that's not out yet, but it might be by the time this podcast is out, on Frankensteining. So yeah. What is Frankensteining?
So let's say that you don't send your equipment out to be repaired, and you repair in your own warehouse. And some of the equipment is just not worth repairing because the cost of the repair is valued more than the replacement of a DQ. Or at least, like, if you have a used car, for example, the value of the used car is less than the value of a new one.
Yeah.
So that's how I value, if something is worth repairing or not. Because if you can get a used one for a better condition, then there's no reason to repair. So anyway, let's say you're repairing your own warehouse. You have a bunch of equipment that is not worth repairing, but you know how to repair. Instead of ordering parts, you can just use the parts in the equipment that is not worth repairing in the equipment that is worth repairing. That saves a lot of time and money because you don't have to wait for the parts to arrive. And there's actually an untapped market that nobody has thought of yet, of parts from equipment that is not worth repairing, just because it's a very small industry. Mm-hmm. And people are making so much more money by restoring.
Yeah.
that nobody actually took a moment to tap into this market. But when the pandemic happened and parts were very difficult to get, I actually, because sometimes I remember who has which parts, and sometimes somebody else needs those. So I used to drive around, collecting parts because, they weren't available and people needed their equipment. I just, bought from one, sold to the other one.
That's pretty smart.
No, I don't really do that so much anymore because, parts are available now.
And the price of gas. And you live in California. Mm-hmm. I could list a number of reasons that I wouldn't be driving around getting parts, but it's good. It's good customer service. And you figured it out. Okay. Anything else you think that restorers should know, or anything else we should talk about on kind of this repair maintenance thing?
So many companies don't have warehouse managers. And I think that a warehouse manager is probably one of the more important positions in a restoration company. Even a small company, just take one of the techs, tell them, here's another couple of dollars an hour. Now you're the warehouse manager. Then, you'll have, instead of having the tech sometimes wait for a call, now let him sweep, let him clean, let him organize. Mm-hmm. It's so useful to have somebody you can call and say, hey, you remember the job from like 3 months ago? We had like a flashlight. Where is that flashlight? Instead of just schlepping to the Home Depot and buying a new one with a whole truck and a whole crew.
sorry, it looked like the video froze there for a second. And it was like, and I think I got caught off guard when your lights changed color. It was like green and then it was blue. And I had this moment of like, I don't know what happened there. Sorry, but it looked like you froze and I lost it. Okay. So all of these warehouses you've been to, you don't have to name any specific companies unless you want to give somebody a shout out, but like, what are some things that you've seen in the most well-run warehouses?
So, from my perspective, because I work in the warehouse, is a clean warehouse.
Yeah.
And the floor that it doesn't make my pants black.
That seems so basic, right? But I believe it.
But if the warehouse is clean, then you know that that also the same attention is put in other aspects of the business.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So again, that brings me to my other point. Have a warehouse manager.
Yes.
Because if you have a warehouse manager, he will point out everything else that is not working in the company.
There you go. Everything else that's not working. I mean, it does boil down to that, right? How fast the equipment can get out, how it's cleaned, how it's maintained. I mean, that shows a lot about the company. A well-run warehouse does show a lot about a company. I've seen some good ones and not so good.
So if you have a warehouse manager, instead of unloading the trucks straight into the inventory, just put them in the dirty pile.
Yep.
Then the warehouse manager puts everything back in place after giving everything a wipe down. That makes your equipment look so good. And then when putting it back on a job, one time, because I occasionally look in the Facebook groups. Mm-hmm. Occasionally. Mm-hmm. Not every day at all.
No, I won't call you out at all on your, no, mm-mm.
So anyway, there was a post, somebody somehow got into to one of the groups, and he's like a customer who has a dehu in his house. And he posted a picture of the filter to the group, and he said, what do you guys think about this? And he got so many angry comments. Why are you touching somebody else's equipment? And that's none of your business, and it's no health risk for you. And I mean, but
it was a homeowner, it was a property owner who was posting it?
Yes, he was not in the restoration industry. He's like somebody who had a loss and he has equipment in his house. And people got so defensive. In my opinion, the people who are defensive are the people who their filters are dirty all the time. I mean, just shut up and replace your filter. Is that so difficult to do?
Okay, I'm following this now. So this was active equipment on a job site, and the restorers were like, if we bring our equipment into your house, you shouldn't be touching our equipment. I'm following the story now, and you're like, it was dirty. Sorry, you guys, it was dirty. Why didn't you? If it had been clean, this wouldn't have been a thing.
If it makes the homeowner feel better, why not to put equipment that makes him feel better? He doesn't care if you have Bluetooth in your equipment. He doesn't care if you have a tracking device. He doesn't care if you have 2 humidity sensors or just one, or if you don't have it all. All he cares is that when you bring something to his house, that it's clean, that it won't make him sick. So why to be such a and sorry, but
not the first time somebody's sworn on my podcast, and that's minor. It's totally fine.
So, but why not to just make sure that your equipment is clean?
Yeah. Okay. Any other equipment horror stories to share? I always love a good story that has to do with a restorer or whatever.
If you by accident send your extractor to be repaired, please, if you can hear me, please clean it before.
Why did I think that was where that was going? Gross.
Because many times all of the brain water is still inside they didn't even spill out the brain water. Usually when I get an extractor to be repaired,
No.
of either brain water or sewage water. That's also why it's broken.
Brown water, all the different names for it. That's disgusting.
Thank you. The stinky water.
The stinky water, yes. But after all, there are not that many Cat 3 losses in this industry, in case you haven't heard. Anyway, okay, all right. Okay, anything else? We've covered a lot. Anything else you want to add? No.
Let me plug in a few stuff because why not?
Okay. Yeah.
Is this a good time to plug in?
Yes, you may, absolutely. Because one of my questions for you is what's next for you and how much are you growing and where do people find you? Go.
So I have a new cleaning product. It's called Restoration Equipment Cleaner. It's great for both the inside and the outside of the equipment. I already started selling it to my clients, and I use it to clean the coils without corroding, eroding anything, and it's safe for children and animals. It's biodegradable and earth-friendly. So it's coming out soon to the general public.
Okay.
I just opened a new Facebook group. It's called In-House Restoration Equipment Repairs.
Okay.
It's not a place to learn how to repair restoration equipment. It's a place for people who already know how to repair restoration equipment to be able to share ideas or get, tips from each other.
Okay.
Because, restoration equipment is very dangerous. And a Facebook group is just not a place, it's just not a good place to get all of the knowledge that you need to not die by accident, which is kind of important sometimes.
Some people might need to hear that groups aren't everything. So that's a wise bit of knowledge there. Okay. And do you have a website or what? So if you're not repairing on your own, where else can people find you? What are your other, I know you have other social handles and stuff like that. So where else can people find you?
Well, I have Instagram and Facebook, both are Born to Repair.
Okay.
I think that's the best place. I don't have a website yet, but something is coming soon. And when I say soon, I mean like in the next 5 or 10 years or so, in the pace that is, going.
I think you've grown fine without it, so you might not need one.
Or you can also find my articles on the CNR magazine.
Good plug. Thank you. I need other people to plug me. I appreciate that. Okay, well, Ilan, thank you so much for all of your insight and for the articles you've been writing. So people who are listening to this, yes, be sure to check out his articles and be sure to follow Born to Repair on Instagram and Facebook. And Ilan, I look forward to hopefully meeting you in person, maybe at a show someday or crossing paths.
For more Restoration Today, visit our website, cnrmagazine.com, or find us wherever you get your favorite podcasts.